Namaste, Namaskaram, Swagatam, Vandanam. Welcome to our special Guru Purnima Satsanga and also the concluding episode of this series, Global Voices Yoga in the Times of COVID-19. We are extremely lucky to have our divine beloved Ammaji with us this evening. Just to give a brief introduction about this inspiring Shakti with us. Ammaji Yogacharini Kalaimamani Puduvai Shakti Yogamani Srimati Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani is the director and resident Acharya of ICYR at Ananda Ashram, Pondicherry. She is the Dharma Patni and successor of Swamiji Gitananda Guru Maharaj. A trained journalist by profession, her articles, essays, and features appear regularly in national and international press. She is the editor of Yoga Life, the monthly magazine, for 51 years continuously. She has been a recipient of many national and state awards. She, along with her Guru Swamiji, have taught and brought up thousands of kids and have trained them in yoga, Bharatanatyam, Carnatic music, and many more to mention freely. Adding a bonus to all, in this episode, that's the 20th one, towards the end, I will take some questions from the audience and they will be answered by Ammaji herself. So please put it to the chat on this present live so that we can look upon it. And Guru Purnima wishes to every soul here. And now we'll hear from Ammaji.
Namaskar to everyone. Contacting you over that technology that borders on magic, where we can see each other even over thousands of miles. I am a technophobe, I admit, but in this time of Corona, I realize it has been a great boon to mankind. Let me begin with a tribute to Swamiji, who was a great soul, inspired hundreds of thousands of people all over the world. And of course, first, our beloved Lord Ganesh, my favorite, who's always been my favorite, that little elephant god who helps us push through the many, many obstacles we have to face as we walk this human path. Om Tat Ganeshaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tano Danti Prachodayate Om Tat Paramparaaya Vidmahe Jnana Lingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tano Guru Prachodayate Om Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Gitananda Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. I thought I should give a topic for the evening, and the thing that came to my mind was, well, this is actually a title, it doesn't sound like it, but it is. Well, we are all humans, after all, aren't we? We are all humans, after all, aren't we? What is the human being? This is the question, isn't it? Being, most people, I would say on the planet, as Swamiji often told us, are not human beings. They are human doings. They are busy going here, going there, doing this, doing that. But our destiny is to become a human being. What is the human? Well, I think it was Plato, one of the old Greek philosophers, who said, the humans are featherless bipeds, which to me is about the closest definition we can get to the human state. Most barely make it up onto 2 feet. That's a big accomplishment, actually. To get out of, well, we have to go back a long way. We have to go way back to the unicelled creatures who are madly swimming along the ocean looking for something to eat. That's their main diversion, occupation. Then we go into the fish who are swimming along in the ocean waters. And then we move on to the land and we slide along on our belly as reptiles, different types of reptiles. And then we go up finally onto 2 feet. Takes a long time to get onto 2 feet. It's no joke. And finally, if we work hard enough, we are able to raise ourselves off the ground onto 2 feet. And at that point, we are able to lift the head and look at the stars. And when we can lift our head and look at the stars, that is the beginning of the birth of consciousness. And we realize there's a huge, huge universe out there. It's not just the dirt or the waters of the planet, but there's a sky filled with galaxies of stars that are more numerous than the grains of sand on the ocean shore. We're only a little tiny speck. Carl Sagan, one of my favorite astrophysicist scientists, described the Earth as a blue dot in dark space. Little dot, or a small little dot. And on that little dot, 8 billion of us are standing. When we look at our existence with this perspective, the mystery, the majesty, what can we say, the beauty of this incredible phenomena called life is evident to us. 8 billion people on this little planet. And each one of them has their own story. I could write 8 billion novels telling the story of every single human. But what is that story? What is the story of humanity? Is it to eat, to sleep, to fight, to quarrel, to kill, to earn money, to dance, to build empires, to become the president of the United States? Is that the story of humanity? Those are little frivolous diversions that we get sucked into as we are moving along this incredible evolutionary trajectory. It is said that the human existence is a bridge that we have to go over, that we have to go past. I like very much one of the Sufi stories where the Sufi is dying and all the people around him, his family, are crying and wailing. But he has a beautiful smile on his face. And his wife said, "Dear, you're dying. Aren't you sad to be leaving us? Aren't you sad to be leaving your home?" And the great Sufi said, "I'm not leaving home. I'm going home." What a beautiful idea. Sometimes we forget and we think that our earthly existence is the end all and be all of our life. And it's not at all. It is simply a bridge, a passage, a college, a university to which we have to learn our lesson. And when we have learned our lessons, we graduate. We graduate to another place. What is that place? Well, the saints, the Sufis, the Druids, I'm reading a book on the Druids right now, which is quite fascinating. The shamans, the priests, the mystics, the yogis, they are touching those higher realms, and they realize that up there in the stratosphere of spirituality, everything is anandam, anandam, sat, chit, anandam. What a relief. I was brought up in a culture where religion, spirituality was a very mournful, sorrowful type of discipline. But here in this culture, and also in the Sufi culture, many of the mystic cultures, those who reach the top of the pyramid, from that vantage point, they saw it is all bliss. It is all anandam. It is all sat. It is all consciousness. What a marvelous message. But we get caught in our little ego bubbles. We can call the ego a bubble. And all of the 8 billion people on the planet love to run around pricking the bubbles of each other ego. Huh? Little Anandraj, my naughty grandson, one day in a class at Yogacharini, said that the ego is an acronym for something. I said, what? He said, the ego stands for everybody get out. I thought that was fantastic, because the ego wants everybody else to go away. They want to be the only one standing on Earth planet. They want all the money, they want all the glory, they want all the fame. What a delusion. Well, in our tradition, we call that moha, illusion, delusion. It's one of the shat ripus, one of the 6 enemies of spirit. Moha, illusion, delusion, bubbles, fantasy. Then mada, pride, ego, excessive ego. Then matsarya, the worst one of all, that terrible green-eyed monster that spoils all relationship, jealousy. And krodha, anger, krodis, filled with anger. They're just looking for something to be angry about. Kama, lust, desire. But the worst of all, lobha, greed. Give me more. I need more. Huh? I think that's all terrible, terrible vices, terrible character flaws. Very difficult for us to see them. But this is part of being human. And this is what I started out with. We're all human, aren't we? We're all works in progress. We're all evolving. Some people call us a work in progress. It's a very nice thing to think about. We're in a university, we're studying, we're learning. We've not become masters, we've not become doctors. We're simply learning. And what are we learning? Well, I've thought a lot about it. What are we supposed to learn? I think we're supposed to learn how to become a human, how to become a human being. Now I have to stand before you or sit before you. Now I'm getting old and the body is saying, look, why are you still holding on to me? And I tell the body, I'm not holding on to you, you're holding on to me. So we have this argument going on. But I have met one human in my life, and this is a picture of that person. He was a total human being. He was a human being. And what's more, he loved it. He loved to be a human being. I never saw him depressed. I never saw him sorrowful or unhappy. I saw him angry quite a bit. He had a lot of anger, but I always considered it to be a righteous anger, because we would all be plodding along like buffaloes in the mud and very happily. And he would just roar like a lion and say, get your you-know-what out of the mud and get going and become a human. You're not a buffalo. And he was a human. He loved to be a human. He loved to eat food. He wasn't a glutton. It was just, even he'd sit at the table in the morning and have a nice bowl of ragi porridge. And he'd say, wow, this is the best bowl of ragi porridge I ever had. Or after that, he'd go into the bathroom and he'd stand under the shower for about 10 minutes and he'd come out. He'd be all wet. He'd look like Neptune emerging from the ocean. He'd say, man, that was the best shower I ever had. And every morning when I'd wake up, on the pillow beside me would be a flower. Every morning, I don't remember a morning when I didn't have a flower on my pillow when I woke up. He enjoyed being human and he embraced his humanity. Okay, maybe people could look at him and say, oh, he did this, he did that. One of the criticisms, it's not criticism. One thing you have to remember about criticism, if you have a beautiful white shirt and it has one dot of ink on it, everybody will see that ink, won't they? And when you're as perfect as he was, with a few little anomalies, people will see that. But he was so perfect, but he wasn't totally perfect. I don't know, who am I? You have to be perfect to recognize perfection. And I have seen and heard and understood that perfection is an illusion. There's no such thing as perfection. But there is wholeness, there is completeness, there is fulfillment. And that's something totally different. And as humans, our desire, our driving inner force is to seek that completeness, to seek that wholeness. We can call yoga. Yoga is wholeness, isn't it? It's being a whole person. He was a whole person. What the students saw, I saw. What the governor of Pandi saw, everybody else, the rickshawala saw. What the president of India saw, the fisherman saw. He was totally whole. He was a united, integrated personality. He said what he thought, and he did what he said. Today is Guru Poornima, a wonderful day, a full moon day. Swamiji was born on a full moon, a Poornima, Guru Poornima, and he left his body on a full moon also. He loved the moon. He used to take us out to the beach, the Bay of Bengal, every full moon night, and we'd all just look at the moon. And that was we didn't need cell phone, like all the young, silly people. The full moon was enough just to see the full moon. That's what I mean by being a whole human being, integrated. Everything he did wholeheartedly. This is another name for yoga. Wholeheartedness. Whatever we're doing, we do it. And we don't stop until we succeed, or at least do our best to the point where we can leave the rest. So we have to remember him. We remember him every moment. We have to remember him with every breath we take, because he taught us how to breathe. We came to him and we didn't know how to breathe. We didn't know how to stand. We didn't know how to sit. We didn't know anything about being human. We didn't even know which side of the body the heart was on. We didn't even know that the mouth and the anus are connected. So many important things we didn't know. And he told us those things. He didn't say, oh, God is in heaven and we'll all go up to the stars and we'll jump from star to star. And no, he was not in any illusion. But he taught us things we have to know as humans. We should know where our heart is. We should know our lungs have 3 parts. We should know that we breathe in and out 16 times a minute. We should know these things. We should know our body. We should know how our mind works. We should know how our emotions work. That's what it means to be a human. We are in the human incarnation. It is our dharma to know what is human. And most people think humans are little squirts running around on the earth, gobbling up French fries and glued to the cell phone and listening to stupid music. My grandson has a song he likes. Knock at the door of God and he'll open for you. I suppose there's some truth in it, but so many stupid things the humans do. Fight. Let's fight each other. There's Kim over in Korea threatening Donald Trump. He's going to blast the US to kingdom come. And Donald Trump says, just try it and see what happens. What stupid things people get involved in. That's what, we're not here to do that. But for centuries and millennia and thousands of years, what have the humans been doing? Fighting, chasing girls, chasing boys, gobbling up food, accumulating wealth, as though that's the end all and be all. Taken us so long, only a few great souls have realized that's not what it is to be human. That's still the animal. The animals do the same thing. You go out in the jungle and you see all the animals fighting with each other. Who's going to kill the other one first? Who's going to eat? I'll eat you before you eat me. Huh? That's animal. Animal is barking. We have a dog here. Last night we had so much fun watching Shobana with her peacock. It was such a cute little thing. It was just going here and there and moving its little head here and there. Then it got a little tired and it jumped up on the arm of the chair, looking at Shobana, and then it started pecking her cheek as though to say, look, let's stop. We've done this enough. Let's go do something else more interesting, like gobbling up bugs. Such a cutie. I love animals. They're very charming. We have a very charming dog here that was purchased for us by Radu and Aishwarya and Govind and Ganesh. And it's just the most darling animal you ever saw, but it's an animal, sure. And it was quite expensive. We have a receipt that says one dog, 2,500 rupees. So it's not a cheapie. But man, oh man, he can bark all night. And he really annoys a lot of people that way. But that's his nature. He can jump in the air and catch crows. And he's supposed to be vegetarian, but once in a while he falls off the wagon and catches a little dumb squirrel or something. And that's his instinct. That's his animal nature. An animal is beautiful in the animal kingdom. But when a human behaves like an animal, it's very ugly. It's very ugly to see humans be like some people bark all the time. They're always barking. They call it shouting, screaming, fighting. They call it that, but it's not that. It's actually no better than a bark. That's a dog barking. That's the instinct of a dog. I've got to make noise. So we're just talking a little bit about we're all humans, aren't we? One time in the press, my little press girl, who was telepathic, she's the one that said this book we're going to release tonight, Kalishwari. I was quite disgusted with what was going on in the ashram that day, and I was complaining. And she's just a little uneducated girl, but she was a real whiz on the computer. And she said, looked at me and she said, well, they're only human after all. Well, it's true. People are human. And we all recognize that to err is human. We even have that phrase. Divya likes all these proverbs and all these beautiful thoughts that have become common in our language. And one of the common thoughts and words is, to err is human, to forgive is divine. See, we have divine virtues. Now, in the animal kingdom, the very characteristics of an animal are the very character traits the animal needs to survive. They have to be fierce, they have to kill others, they have to survive, they have to look for food, they have to roam. That is part of their animal nature. And it's not wrong. In fact, it's a virtue, because the only real virtue for an animal is survival. That's all. You can't talk yama yama to Bukash. He'll sit and look at you and he'll say, oh, can I have a biscuit? After you've talked to him for about 10 minutes and say, it's wrong to eat a squirrel, a little baby squirrel. And he'll be looking very intently at you. But really, all he wants to do is ask you if you have any more biscuits in that packet. That's not wrong. Like the little peacock last night. There it was moving here and there, and its head going this way and that way. And it was obeying Shobhana, because Shobhana somehow has got some magic that she can get a peacock to sit on her chair for half an hour. I was considering bringing Bukash up here to meet you all tonight, but God knows what he'd do. He'd probably eat the computer, because he eats anything that he can get his mouth on. We can't get angry at the animal. But when we become human, these virtues, or survival at any cost, becomes a vice. And then we can talk about vices. Shat ripus. Moha. Well, the animal doesn't have a clue of what's going on. If you ask Bukash, what's the ashram like? All he would say is there are a lot of squirrels around that are quite stupid. And there are a few stupid crows also. And sometimes I make friends with crows who are able to drop fish for me in exchange that I don't attack them. And this will be his view. There are a lot of lizards that fall from the ceiling. That's his view of his environment. Moha, illusion. Yes, kopam. If somebody takes his bone, like somebody comes and takes food out of his bowl, he gets mad. He has kama, he wants certain things. He has matsarya. He gets very jealous of his two companions, Bhumi and Mimi. If they get something he doesn't get, he doesn't like them. So, what is a virtue in the animal to survive at any cost becomes a vice in the human. Now, once we see clearly that all these so-called vices and sins and character flaws are simply hangovers from our past incarnations as animals. Walt Whitman wrote a very beautiful elegy to animals. I can't quote it totally, but it was something like, sometimes I could turn and live with animals. They are so placid and so self-contained. They don't whine about their condition, they don't complain. And then the last line of this beautiful poem says, I see so many of my traits in them, and I wonder, did I wander that way long ago and negligently drop them? So beautiful. such a beautiful way to recognize that, yes, we are carrying from our past incarnations into the human so many animal reptilian conditionings. And our job as a human is to see them with swadhyaya, to understand them, and to evolve beyond them. Our rishis tell us to reach moksha, and that's the goal of our human life, as far as I'm concerned. Freedom into that anandam anandam satchidanandam. But to get to that point, we have to go through 84 lakhs of incarnations. This is why they say that Lord Shiva has 84 lakhs steps in his Tandava. And that means that every life form is Lord Shiva holding still in his dance. What a beautiful idea. That Shiva spirit, that goodness, that great goodness, that cosmic dancer, that essential vibratory nature of the subatomic world, which this scientists call quantum physics. They discovered it. We call it Shiva. The constant motion as we evolve toward higher life form. And the scriptures say 84 lakhs, that is 8,400,000. Now, I have seen in the recent years, and I saw recently also in the newspaper, that now the scientists have quantified the number of species in the world, and they say it's 8,400,000 something. Now, that's incredible. It's the same number. They have counted the species in the world and come up with the same number our rishis did millions of years ago. And we have to go through all these experiences. We have to be a mosquito. We have to be a rat, even if we don't like it. We have to be a squirrel. We have to be a dog. We have to be a horse. We have to be a snake in the grass. We have to be even a scorpion, which is a terrible, terrible incarnation, but it's necessary. And every species is necessary to the whole planet. This is the marvelous mystery of our humanity. And we forget it. And I like human beings. I like humanity. It amuses me, and I love to know about the different humans. I love to know people's life stories. I love to know what's going on in the world. I read 4 newspapers every day, and it's an addiction for me, but there's so many incredible things happening in the world. I don't like electronic media much, and so I don't watch TV or a cell phone or anything, but I do like my newspaper, maybe because I grew up in a newspaper office, and I love the smell of ink, and the sound of the printing presses, and all the excitement of that life. But humanity is a marvelous, marvelous phenomena. And there's some incredible things that have been done. There's some incredible, terrible things, but there's some incredible, beautiful things, wonderful things. I saw in the paper the other day a young boy who was born without hands, and he wrote his 12th standard exams with his toes. And he was the first one finished. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the human spirit that can go through all that and say, I'm not going to get knocked down? There was a beautiful Sufi who said, what did he say? He said it so beautifully. He said, humanity is a caravan of beings traveling to the earth, telling each other fantastic stories about God. I like that so much. We're always telling each other fantastic stories about God, about so many stories we have. In India, we're very lucky because our stories are really quite good. I don't like some of the Greek stories so much, or some of the Scandinavian, because they get a little wild. But our stories are very, very human. They highlight the difficulties all humans face. And they highlight the problems of being a human. And they also show a way we can overcome these problems. They're a wonderful, wonderful lesson in understanding our humanity and learning to grow. But going back to Swamiji, he's looking at me quite sternly. This is quite a stern photo, but I actually quite like it. Just like he said, why are you talking so much? But he was a total human. And he just loved to be a human. And he climbed mountains, and he took me to the mountains. He took me to Amarnath. When I didn't even know what Amarnath was, he took me to, we didn't go to Kailash, but we went to Gangotri and Yamunotri and all the great shrines, Badrinath in the Himalayas. And he took me from the top of India down to the bottom, and from the west to the east, all over the world. And we had dinner with the president in New Delhi, and we had dinner with the Maharaja in, I think it was in Dehradun, I'm not sure, someplace near Dehradun. And we had dinner with fishermen sitting on the floor eating on banana leaves. And we walked, and we rode in airplanes, and we rode in bullock carts. We did everything. And he showed me how enjoyable it was to be a human. I never knew that before. I was brought up in a culture where people's ideas of enjoyment was very, very different. I don't have to tell you what it was like to grow up in America in the 1950s, 60s. And somebody showed me we can enjoy the ocean, we can enjoy the mountains, we can enjoy without being primitive, without being silly about it. Just go for a swim. In fact, Divya had asked me to tell a few things about him, so I'm telling. And when I first met Swamiji, the first date, it wasn't really a date, he just said, meet me down by the Gandhi statue at 10 o'clock. I did on the beachfront. And we jumped in the ocean and swam past the breakers. And we started talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. You go past the breakers, it's very calm. You can just float. And the next thing we knew, we were about 6 kilometers to the north of Pondicherry. Now, I had on I'll tell you, I'll confess, I had on a bikini. Because in those days, we all wore bikinis. And Swamiji just had a swing trunks. We left our clothes at the Gandhi statue. When we got down, in fact, it was probably near ICYER that we came down here to Palayam or Chinnamadal in those days. And a little fisherman came along in one of his log boats. You know, they have these boats that are made out of logs. They probably have been around for 2,000 or 3,000 years. That they just tie some logs together and they go sailing out in the ocean. And this fisherman saw Swamiji and I out there, and he said, do you need any help? And we said, well, I suppose it's getting dark and maybe we should go in. So he said, jump on my logs. And he took us in through the breakers to the shore. But the problem was we didn't have any clothes. So how are we going to go back to Pandi? But that's not a problem in India, because the fisherman said, come on to my hut. My wife will give you a sari and I'll give you a dhoti. We'll call a rickshaw. We didn't have autos much in those days, a cycle rickshaw. And we'll get you back to town. Now this is the type of life he gave me, that we had this incredible natural life. And he was not a man who needed luxury, and yet if we had luxury, enjoyed it. We stayed in many 5-star hotels and we enjoyed it. I wouldn't want to live there, but once in a while it was okay. And our ashram is not luxurious, but we have electricity, we have running water, and we have lots of good fresh air. And we have some chairs if we want to sit on the chair. And this was plenty. That reminds me of Loba, greed. Swamiji was not greedy in any way. In fact, I would say that the shop ripus were nil, zero. We did not have any shop ripus left. And I told you there was some anger there, but it was a different type. It was like a fire that sometimes I would do something very stupid. And the only way I could change is if he used that anger. And that anger made me change because it was really a fire. And fires change. And he helped me to change. He helped me to grow because I trusted him. And I felt this is a man who knows something that I don't know. And that was the main attraction I had for him. This is a man who knows something I don't know. He was the first person. And maybe I was a little egotistic, I don't know. But I never felt. I knew a lot of people who were big in government, big in drama, big in dance and all that, but I never met. That didn't mean anything. They did not know something I didn't know. They maybe knew to dance better or something like that. So he taught me what it meant to enjoy humanity, enjoy being human, and to use. He often told us, everything is there for your use, but nothing is there for your misuse. A very, very important lesson. Everything is there for your use, but nothing is there for your misuse. So many things he said to us. They went right into the brain cell. We never could forget. Maybe it became part of us. But I was saying, he was not a greedy person. Money came, money went, would come in the right hand, go out the left. You might get 10,000 in a day, and some guy would come and say, look, my daughter has to be married. Can you help me? And that 10,000 would go into the person's hand and they go get her married. I remember days in Family Swami Mata when we did not even have enough money to buy a vegetable. So I had to go around and gather up all our newspaper and sell the newspapers. But the next day, maybe a huge amount of money would come. And as Swamiji said, whenever I need it, it's there. He called this Riddhi. Siddhi is a psychic power, but Riddhi is psychic prosperity. Whenever you need anything, you're going to have it. So why do you get uptight about it? There was a famous author. I always forget his name. I don't know, he was an American. I think he wrote Joseph Heller. He wrote Catch 22, which is quite a marvelous book. And he and a friend were at a party. There was another author who had recently become very famous, had written a book, which had become very popular. And the friend was sort of poking Joseph Heller, saying, aren't you jealous of him? He's got so much money, he's got so much fame, and look at you, you hardly got any enough to pay your rent off your book, Catch 22. And Heller just laughed and said, I have more than he has. And the friend was a little bit shocked. He said, what? What do you mean? Heller said, I know I have enough. I know I have enough. I don't need more. Swamiji was like that. He had enough. He didn't need more. Whatever he had was enough. He had a bowl of porridge, it was enough. If we were in the Himalayas and we had nothing to eat, we would drink Ganges water. When we first were married, we went up and stayed in a cave in the Ganges right above Rishikesh. Swamiji said, we're going to go on a vacation on our honeymoon. We went up the road and he says, oh, this is a place we have to turn left. And we turned left And it looked to me like we were going into the jungle. And he said, no, here's the path. We got over to the banks of the Ganges, and there was a cave there. So Swamiji said, we're going to stay here for 9 days. And we're going to fast. And we'll drink Ganges water. And that was fine. He gave me so many experiences like that that showed me what it meant to be human. So many beautiful human experiences. Many people say, did Swamiji rouse your Kundalini? I'd say, Swamiji, open your chakras. I'll say, I've got enough. I don't need Kundalini rousing. I don't need my chakras open. I've got enough. I just have to breathe in and out. And I have to, like today when I came home, right outside the door, there was a little plant, not very big, Alaripu plant. It had 3 little pink flowers just sitting in a row, like decoration. See, that's enough. What more do we need? Or in the, was it here? Where was it? Was it in the bottom? So many birds were singing this morning. And just, maybe it was here. There's so many birds. When we can hear the bird songs in the morning, why do we have to have a cell phone? I've never been able to understand it. When there's so much music on the earth planet, when there's so much beauty, when there's so much drama, I often tell everybody that I don't need to watch TV or soap operas. I just have to look around me. And everywhere I look are all these soap operas. So this is what I have discovered it means to be human. And maybe at some point I will transcend that humanity. Maybe the minute I leave the body, I really don't know when it will come. I hope the minute I leave the body, I will be able to go to the next level. But I'm not one to tell. But the purpose of human life is to transcend humanity and go to another place. As the Sufi said, I'm not leaving home, I'm going home. What a beautiful statement. This is not our home. We are here on this planet to learn our lesson and to enjoy the experience of this incredible earth. So many incredible things, and nowadays there are so many ways in which we can experience the earth planet. There's really so many documentaries. In the paper, every day I see so many incredible photos. There was a beautiful little photo today in the paper of a pygmy hog, tiny little thing about this big. It was so cute. And then we think, oh my God, look on this planet. What incredible things are living there. We don't even know it. Well, we have quite a few things here, but we don't have that many. We don't have pygmy hogs. But we have lots of other things that I won't tell people, because if I told people everything that lives here, nobody would come here. If we told people everything that's living in Kamli Madam, nobody would step in the door, would they? So we keep quiet about it. But we're sharing this space with an incredible number of creatures. And we leave them alone and they leave us alone. Little Dhivya here knows one of the creatures, because during Diwali a couple of years ago, we were going around the Mata. I see right here carrying our lamps, and all of a sudden something fell from the roof of the pranayama hut onto her shoulder. And it was a little snake.
Actually, not a little one.
It was a big snake. And because she's brought up in this nature, she didn't panic. If she would have panicked, then the little big snake probably would have retaliated. But it fell off her body and scurried away. I had students here who went into their room and came screaming out at night. I said, what's the problem? They'd say, there's a monster on my ceiling. I said, that's not a monster, it's just a lizard. They'd never seen a lizard before. How far away the humans have come from their own humanity. As humans, we are witnesses to the unfoldment of life. And when we are witnesses, it implies vairagya. It implies detachment. It implies the proper distance. I often think about this. Okay, there's a cobra. I'm not going to pick it up and put it in my blouse. That would be dumb. But if I see it over there, I can enjoy its beauty. I can enjoy its creation. But I have to keep the distance. Now, if we're stupid and we think that we can do anything we want, then we're going to be in danger. But when we realize that there is a proper distance to keep from every single thing, even from certain people, because some people are still animals. Some people are still real, they're really snakes. They have all the qualities of a snake. There's some people who are scorpions. I often say, people are chocolate-coated scorpion. You look at it and think, oh, it's a nice piece of chocolate. And you bite into it, and there's a scorpion inside. Many people are crocodiles. They're walking around on two legs, but they still have that old reptilian brain active. And this was one of Swamiji's great teachings. That he said, this is an evolutionary process where we have to evolve out of these old reptilian, instinctive structures in our brain and into the mammalian. And from the mammalian, we have to move right up here to the cerebral cortex and start to use it. I often tell Dhivya and Ananda, to our teenagers, that they've got to get more brain cells working in their cerebral cortex. Otherwise, they're just wagging their tails at the back of the brain. And that's natural. We can understand that because the human goes through all the stages of evolution in one lifetime. So when we're teenagers, we have to go through this whole process of learning how to use the cerebral cortex and not be caught up with all the reptilian and mammalian instincts. And that takes a lot of awareness and consciousness, awakening. The Buddha was asked by someone, why are you different from other men? Everybody worships you. How are you different? And the Buddha just smiled and said, I am awake. It's beautiful. Most people are asleep. That's another of Swamiji's great teachings. He said, the average person is hypnotized. What are they hypnotized? They're hypnotized by their senses and their emotions. Because the senses and the emotions are just two sides of the same coin. The senses feed the emotions, and the emotions prompt the senses to go out and get more enjoyment or to avoid more pain. So we have to learn these things. And Swamiji taught us all these. He taught us how to become human. Some people want to skip right from scorpion state to God. Well, it's not possible. We have to go through all these stages. Rumi, the beautiful Turkish poet, who was I'm a great lover of his, wrote a beautiful poem, translated from Persian, where he said, I died as a mineral to become, I can't quote it perfectly, I died as a mineral to become a reptile. I died as a reptile to become a mammal. I died as a mammal to become a man. I died as a man to become an angel or rishi or yogi. And I died as a rishi to become God. And its last line was, when was I ever the less by dying? So beautiful. Every time we die, we go to the next stage. I believe that. That this is why there's no condemnation, there's no failure. There's really no failure. Maybe we're a little slower. Maybe we have to go back and repeat lessons. But we'll never fail. Eventually, every single jiva will attain moksha. What a marvelous concept. Nobody will be condemned to hell for thousands of years. Nobody will be condemned to the eternal fire. Every single jiva in this evolutionary momentum will eventually achieve moksha, but it might take quite a long time. Are we at the end?
Well, we have had some questions from people, so it's really been nice to have this satsang, and I wanted this to be the conclusion, okay? It's not a total end, but I thought that it'd be a nice way to give an end to such a wonderful series. The past 20 episodes, like today's the 20th, and each one taught us something different, and it was so nice to see all these people talking and just bringing out their best, and so many people enjoyed it. So we have some questions from the audience to answer, and we'll be winding up after these questions, and I've taken selectively because make sure that we don't cross a time limit. So we have a question. The first question is, how was Swamiji different as a husband and a guru?
That actually was a big challenge, because the husband is supposed to protect the wife and please the wife and be careful of her feelings. But the guru doesn't have to worry about that. The guru has only one aim, and that is to evolve the spirit of the student. And sometimes it's painful. And that was the thing, that Swamiji very often had to put me in a situation where it was very painful. But fortunately, I never lost feeling that he knew what he was doing. He was not trying to harm me. He was only trying to help me expand my consciousness. So I had that conviction. But it was painful. And a husband should not have to do that. The husband should protect the wife. The husband should please the wife. The husband should support the wife, which he did. At the same time, sometimes it looked like he was harming me. But it wasn't harmful, it was necessary. I can give a small example that when I was 8 months pregnant with Anand, Swamiji and I had been in Bangalore for a seminar. He had quite a large satsang in Bangalore. 200 or 300 people had gathered for a week long. He'd given me a manuscript to give one of our students there, who was going to give it to the publisher. And due to many, many things, I totally forgot about it. I kept it in my suitcase. We got back to Pondicherry, and Swamiji said, "Did you give the manuscript to Janaki Raman?" Oops, I forgot. Swamiji said, "Okay, you get on a bus right now and go to Bangalore and give it to him." On those days, that was a big thing. The roads were very difficult. The bus was very difficult. I was 8 months pregnant. But he told me to do it, and I did it. Because I had made a mistake. And I had to learn not to make those mistakes. Oh, some people might think, oh, that was very cruel and mean. But maybe for a husband it would have been, but not for the guru. So there is a difference, and it is a difficult, very, very difficult relationship on the two. But we have it in our scriptures. We do have rishis who have had wives who were their chelas. And I mean, it is there. But it's a very difficult relationship.
So the next question is, what is your perception of COVID-19?
I don't think about it much, to tell you the truth. It's just a little tiny, tiny, half living, half not living organism that has frightened the pants off the globe unnecessarily. And I feel that, if you'll excuse me, I feel that there are at least 70% of the people who succumb to it die of fear and not from the virus. There's an old story about that where a sadhu was going to a town and people asked him what he was doing there, and he said, well, there's an epidemic there and I'm going to go and see if I can help. And he came back a month later and they said, well, what was the situation? He said, well, quite a few people died. He said, about 20% died of the infection and 80% died of fear. And I think that's the situation. That people are so terrified. And people's immunity is very low now. That's for many reasons. People don't get out and they're not in the nature. They're not. When we were small kids, my mother, who's now 95 or almost 100, I guess, she used to let us eat dirt, play in the dirt, run around dirty. And we never got sick. We never went to the doctor. And we never went to the doctor. But nowadays, my God, somebody sneezes and they run to the doctor. And they're so terrified of their own bodies. And I suppose the immunity has gotten so weak in the human race now because people are very weak. All the junk foods, the pollution, so many factors are there. But I do believe that if one is strong mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, that this tiny unseen enemy cannot harm. So that's my take on it.
We have another question. How difficult is it to switch between the role of a guru versus parent, grandparent?
I can't do it. And this makes my grandchildren quite angry because I am a guru. I don't want to be a guru, but he made me. At least I can't call myself a guru. Swamiji that gave me that injection of guru virus, if you want to call it that. And I cannot help but try to evolve their spirit. Whereas for them, they are more interested in pleasant experiences, fun, enjoyment, being on the cell phone, staying up late, eating junk food. Not that they do, they're not so bad as others. I mean, they've grown up in the ashram. But even the little bit they do, I'm always after them. And I can't divorce the two. If I could, it'd be okay. I can't. And anybody who comes close to me, I have to play that role. I won't do it to people who are not close. And some people who are not teachable. There are people who are totally unteachable. Their ego is so strong, it's like a cement wall. And then I just give up and I say, okay, it's not my role to try to open them up in any way. But if anybody has a possibility to grow, and I have a possibility to help them in that, then I'll be there. So I can't divorce that. But I don't always implement it. It depends on the, like I don't have any obligation to be a guru to the guy who sells me fruit. But I do have an obligation to the ladies that work here because they've come right into my house. And so I have to teach them certain, not much because their capacity is not so much. But whatever can be taught, everybody who comes in contact with us, when they should be better people because of that. And I would have to say that about Swamiji. Whoever came in contact with him, even if they hated him later, they became better humans because of their contact with him. And that's what a guru does. Not that they go out and try to enlighten people, but just by their very being and the way they live, they do bring people up. And he was like that. He brought nobody, I never saw anybody go down who came and associated with him. Everybody went up, but it may have been painful, they may not like it, they may have even hated him, but they were better people.
Well, we have another question here. What is success in terms of humanity?
Moksha, to evolve beyond humanity. Humanity is great, I love it. It's a nice experience, but I don't want to live there forever. It's like you don't want to stay in college forever. You don't want to stay in LKG forever. So the purpose of humanity is to grow beyond humanity, into divinity, into that great mystic space where we know all. When I first came to Swamiji, one of my favorite quotes from the Upanishad, I think it was Mandukya Upanishad, where the student went to the teacher and said, "Reverend Sir, I desire to comprehend the universe." And that was what I had when I came to him. I wanted to know the universe. Now, to me, to know the universe is equivalent to moksha. That we get to a state where we know everything. Not in the sense that we've studied it, or not in the sense that we've passed an exam, but suddenly we know. Like, I know reincarnation is true. I know it. Now you can say, "I don't believe you, I want to argue with you," and I'd say, "I'm not interested." Certain things I know. I know that there's life after death. I know that we evolve. I know that we are not destined to remain on the earth planet forever. I know that. And this knowing is the same to me as moksha. I've always wanted to know everything. That would be moksha. Freedom. Freedom from limitation.
Well, the next question, it is quite essential. How to maintain cheerfulness in life?
That's a toughie. Well, try to live with cheerful people. That's the best. If you're living with morose, unhappy people, it's very tough to be cheerful. You can ask Anand because he has a cheerful nature. His name was Ananda. I remember when he first went to boarding school, he was always a cheerful person. And I remember he told me when he went to boarding school, one of the kids there, after he was there only about a month, one of the boys said, "Why are you always so happy?" Why are you always so happy? People who are unhappy don't want happy people to be happy. So your best bet is to try to associate with cheerful people. We should go chasing after miserable people. People who like to fight and quarrel and be jealous and all that. But sometimes it's very tough. Like maybe you're in an office and your boss is just a big grump. Anand Raj had a poem in his school. He said, "The Grumble family." They're always grumbling, grumbling, grumbling. Now, if it's possible to remove ourselves from their presence, we should do so. But if we're not, then it becomes a problem. What if they're your child or your husband or your grandmother and you just are caught? Then you have to find other ways because they can bring you down. You can be in a very happy mood and some miserable people will try to poke your balloon because misery loves company. And this is why all the yogis, including Patanjali, said that we must have satsang. as much as we can. That's why it's good to teach, to create your own little yoga circles where you can be in a company that they try to be cheerful. In the ashram, over our door, Swamiji has put the sign, enter here only if you are happy. He doesn't say, come here and be happy. He says, don't come in here unless you're happy. Well, a lot of people come in who are not happy. But I will say most of our people try to be happy in our 6-month course. That is, somehow they manage it. Maybe they don't feel so happy, but they put on a show. And that's better than nothing. It's like Hillary Clinton said, fake it till you make it. If you're not happy, pretend you're happy, and the next thing you know, you're going to be happy. So happiness is cheerfulness. We must make an effort. It takes more energy to be cheerful than to be miserable. Very easy to be miserable. So if you can avoid miserable people, it's better. But if you can't, then God help you. Then you have to find another way, like work longer hours, go out for bike rides, get away from the people. Sometimes you've got to do it because otherwise they'll drag you down. And this is a fact of life. We have to find out how to manage it. When we feel cheerful and everybody around us is down in the dumps, it's very difficult. So it's difficult. But we can maintain that cheerfulness with love, understanding, but vairagya, distance, keeping a safe distance from the people, and the vika. Actually, Patanjali also says that, he also said something, a very nice paradigm he has for this. He says, be friendly with the happy and be compassionate to those who suffer. Be distance, take your distance from those who are not good people. And he gives some of the very practical advice how to maintain that. But always remember, misery loves company. So the minute you associate with miserable people, they are going to try to get you right down to their level. And it's a very difficult thing. It takes a lot of skill in action, but yoga is skill in action. Dhivya often says to me, why is life so hard? She's only 17. How can life be hard at 17? But life is hard. Life is difficult. And we have to face it. But in the middle of all that difficulty, we can be cheerful. That's a test of our cheerfulness. In the midst of problems, in the midst of all that, if we can still maintain our cheerfulness and not allow these negative people to suck us into the mud and the muck of their emotional problems, then we will know what cheerful is. And it's a sadhana, it's a skill. You can't just say, I'm going to be cheerful. You have to learn how to be cheerful. Pratipaksha bhavana, when you feel a little depressed, cultivate the opposite, count your blessings. When you're angry with someone, look at them and say, okay, they're probably suffering, leave them. That's why Plato said very beautifully, 2,500 years ago, be kind to all you meet, for all are engaged in a life and death struggle. Very fantastic. Everybody is struggling to survive at some level. The lower developed people, they will be striving to exist on an animal level. And the higher developed people, they will struggle to create a virtuous character. So, but still the struggle goes on. I think as one grows in spirit, the struggle becomes less. But down at the bottom, down in the animal life, and man, animal, and people who are half animal, half man, like Narasimha, I think down at that level, it's quite a struggle. But when we get a little control over things and gain a little bit of skill, it's a skill, it's an art. And there's nothing that can be of greater benefit to the human race than a happy heart. That is why the Bible says so beautifully, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, whereas a mournful face is like a poison. It's so true. So true. A merry heart does good like a medicine, and a miserable face is like a poison. Some people run around poisoning everybody. Stay away from them. Don't poke them with sticks, like Ananda used to do to the cobras in Kali Swami Bhavanani.
Okay, so we have another one. What is the difference between yoga in Swamiji's time and now with modern technology?
So we'd have to say, what's the difference between an elephant and an ant? You can't compare it. There's no comparison. Yoga in ancient times was a spiritual sadhana, and the guru took only a few people, and those people had to have excellent qualities of character. They already had to be adhikarans. Anand is now giving a beautiful series of classes on yama niyama. Adhikarans, people who are trying to become fit for the higher levels of evolution. And the guru would never accept anybody who did not have all these virtues. Never. And the guru usually lived someplace out in the forest or by a cave or someplace. It was not easy to go to the guru. Very difficult. And so the student was not a customer. The guru did not need anything from the student. Swamiji, this was his great thing. He did not need anything from his student. He did not need to please the student to become popular. He did not need to gather a lot of students to get a lot of money or to get free karma yoga projects. He was just a guru who tried to awaken people and lift them to higher levels of consciousness. And it wasn't that he even tried. He just had to do it. It was his nature. Like the Swami who pulled the scorpion out of the river, saved it from drowning, and the scorpion bit him. And he dropped the scorpion, and he picked it up again, and the scorpion bit him again. This went on, and someone asked him, "Why do you do that? The scorpion's going to sting you." And the Swami said, "Well, it's the scorpion's nature to sting, and my nature is to help it. We can't go against our nature." So, what's that? Now, where did we go? Where did we come from? I forgot the question.
That was between Swamiji's time and the modern.
In the old days, people had to have very good character, discipline, love, understanding. They had to be awake. And they had to want moksha. That was the aim. We want freedom, or as the beautiful student said in the Mandukya Upanishad, "Reverend Sir, I wish to comprehend the infinite." They had to have that. That's why they came, and they went through a lot of hardship, and they got tested a lot before they got it. Nowadays, all the students in yoga are customers. So the teacher has to make a living, so he has to please the student. So the whole art and sciences has to be commercialized and corrupted for the teacher's purpose. So I think yoga can be transmitted only when the teacher has no need that the student can fulfill. the teacher is simply giving because the student is ready and it flows. And sometimes the student's not ready, so it can't flow. That's another thing. But the teachers were quite careful about who they took as students. And so that purity of the idea could be maintained. Now, yoga's become a therapy, it's become a product, it's become a business, it's become an organizational glue, so many things. And all of that is going to corrupt the essence of yoga, because there's no way you can teach the truth if you're trying to get somebody. So I would say that's the biggest difference. And yoga's for, we say yoga's for everybody, but it's not. Really, yoga is not for everybody, but there are certain ideas, there are certain practices that can be taught that will help. And I'm not against that. But what Shobana, who with her peacock, you'll always remember Shobana because she had that peacock. She told me one time, and I believe that this is true, she said, I can't teach yoga. I don't call my courses yoga. She says, I call my courses yoga therapy. She said, the people have to have therapy first. Only then they can open up to the yoga. And I think that's very true. But Swamiji used to say people come to him and they don't need a guru. They need a doctor or a lawyer or a business consultant, or they need a wife or whatever it is, but they don't need a guru. So they come to a guru looking for something they cannot get from the guru. So, and I really feel that's true. That's what's happened in modern times. People have made yoga into a cure-all and be-all. And in my opinion, it's not, but it does help. I'm not against it. It has become very shallow, but it's amazing, some of these very shallow concepts and practices, how much benefit do people get. It blows my mind sometimes. So even a little bit does some good. But we can't say anything.
Okay, so we will be concluding with this last question. Which phase of life is most difficult? Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa.
I myself think Grahastha. I really believe the householder's life is most difficult because you have to learn to give, to take, you have to learn to adjust, and you're bound together. You can't just run off and go on. So there's some psyche in us that says, okay, there's my mother, there's my father, this is my brother, my sister, my child, my grandchildren. I can't just leave them. So there is that bond, whether it's a genetic bond or if it's a psychic bond, whatever that bond is, it's a bond that is difficult to break. Whereas in the brahmacharya, you can leave the guru. In fact, you're expected to leave the guru. And in the vanaprastha, you've left everybody anyway. And sannyas, you've totally left. So there's no real bond that's holding you. But the grahastha is a bondage. And I don't think it should be taken lightly. And I'm never in favor of people breaking marriages or breaking families, no matter how bad the situation is, unless it goes way over the top. And there are some instances. But because of the bondage of that state, I think it's the most difficult.
Okay, so I think we'll stop here.
Both
of you all have had such a satsang with Ammaji, and hope this episode has really brought us to the highest that we could go. And thanks to every single person who has been part of this. So we are going to release this.
I'm going to release this book, which has been about 30 years. Took me about 30 years to write it. And it's the second volume of History of Yoga, which is a history of all the major people who played a role in carrying the yogic knowledge from the past to the present. And you can see it's quite big. but it's quite entertaining. I wrote volume 1, which was more of an overview showing how the different itihastas and Puranas and Shastras and all the different scriptures fit together in building that historical bridge, which is maybe a little dull for some people unless you have an intellectual bent. But this is a book that tells the life of so many great souls, and I'm very happy with it. It's very readable, and I think I've read this book maybe 200 or 300 times, just proofreading it and changing it. And we thought today our little Selvin, the little boy, he's not a little boy, but he looks like a little boy to me. He's about 35, I suppose, or 40. Just a young kid who's not really trained in this, was able to put this book together. And he got it to us right before Poornima. And I thought maybe Swamiji would smile, but he's not going to smile. We wanted to release it on this date, on the Guru Purnima date, as a tribute to Swamiji. Because anything I've been able to do in my life, top to bottom, it's only because he was in my life. God knows what would have happened if I would not have met him. And I guess it was predestined. He and I were, he often teased me that where I was born is on the opposite side of the globe to Pondicherry. That if you drill a hole from Pondicherry straight through the globe, you come out where I was born, Minneapolis. And there's a word for that in geography, it's a geographical term called the Adi pole or something like that, where the two exact points on the sides of the globe, that if you go through, you'll come out the other side. And because of him, this has come about. And I hope we're not commercializing it, it's not for the public. We won't even put it in the bookstores. But Anand and I, somehow the idea came that using History of Yoga 1, History of Yoga 2, and History of the Rakshasa, we could put out a yoga cultural course where people could study yoga, tracing it back to its beginning, how it came through all the millennia, plus the Rishi and Rakshasa, which is my own personal history of my own evolution, and also what we faced at Kabli Swami Madhav. And I hope that will come about. Usually I don't care for these things, but I thought, no, it might be a very, very nice teaching device online. So we're very happy that tonight on Swamiji's Guru Purnima, we were able to say, look, it's finally emerged from all the chitta-vritti in some kind of and we pass it over to Dhivya Priya, who won't read it for a few years, but maybe 1 year she'll read it. And Ananda as well.
Okay, so though I live with Ammaji day after day, year after year, it is refreshing and enlightening to interact with her. And to all of you, love you all. This is not the end. I might come up with other ideas. And the good news is Tell Me Appa series will continue henceforth from the following Sunday, as many of you are looking out for it. And don't forget to send your questions and I will get back to it. And thank you for being such a support in this series, The Global Voices, and to every great personality who participated in it, who I interviewed and they to answer my questions. But still, I hope they all enjoyed it, and people who are watching it also. And thus concluding this series. And thank you for making me into what I am now. And I'm better than what I was in the first episode, and now 20 episodes. So it has been such a growth. Thank you so much.
I would just like to point out that this has been her project from start to finish, with some technical support from her father. And it's quite remarkable. She's been able to organize and coordinate everything. It was her idea and her persistence going on without a break for 20 episodes, and also for coming up with new costumes every night. I wish that you could all see her dress, because she goes to a lot of trouble to dress up in the typical Indian style. And I think Anand has taken pictures of her costumes every night. But this, I do have to say, the other morning I woke up and I thought, my God, this girl has done this big thing. And I'm very proud that she's done it. And now I hope that all these new thoughts that have entered her cerebral cortex will be able to do a pratipakshana against all the instincts and emotional outbursts that are spurting out from the mammalian and reptilian brain. Little teenager struggling to develop the mind, a struggle that we all have to go through at some point. She and her brother both, they're doing their best with a little input from others around them. But she has done it. She visualized it. She coordinated it. She presented it. And her father has helped her with the technical details. And I think now she's learned a lot about this different technology as well. So it's been quite an experience. And she's convinced me to come and do her last episode. That took a bit of poking. But through this, I have to admit, I have really enjoyed seeing all of our global family and hearing the global voices in real time. Actually, I don't see it in real time. They put it on a video and then they show me immediately after. So it's only about a half hour later. And it's a chance for me to see all of you. And it does really give something very special to see all of you in your own place and realize the struggles and the success, the failures that you're going through, but how you're trying to hold to the thread of that yogic sadhana in the best way you can. And anyway, let's keep going. As Confucius says, there's no shame in going slow, but don't stop.